whatever it is that you assign yourself to, that you say is larger than you, is something that's leading you towards it, whatever it is. And I'm not going to name it. It's, to me, it doesn't have a name. For me, it does have a name now, but for you, it could be anything that you attach yourself to that gives you the sense of being greater than you.
Hi, I'm Harjeet, and this is Heartbeat with Harjeet. Today, I have a very special guest on my show. Her name is Seema Gill. She's been a dear friend of mine for many years. Her stories have been very inspiring to me. She's overcome some massive hurdles in life, and her positivity just oozes out. I just really admire her. I will save the introduction for Seema. Tell the viewers a little bit about who you are.
Thank you so much for having me on your wonderful show. At this moment in time, I want to say that I'm ever grateful for the life that I have and the opportunity to be here to share with you everything that I possibly can. I'm from the world of real estate, but more recently, I've had a life-changing event, the dreaded C word, that has made me paddle through deep waters. And I'm just here to share with you experiences that I've had that can hopefully help more and more people out there to continue to remain positive and keep their heads above water.
I love how you say that you're a realtor, but a realtor doesn't define who you are.
No, absolutely not.
And when it comes, I see you as a mother, I see you as a friend, I see you as so much more than a realtor. And overcoming cancer, that's one of the big stories, one of the big challenges that you faced in life. And it's something that I really did want to touch upon as well. So I'm glad that you brought that up. It's a word that nobody wants to hear when it's applied to themselves or a loved one.
Yes.
And I remember when you shared the news with me, how I felt. But I just want you to go over your experience and how it was discovered and just how you felt in that moment when you heard the dreaded C word.
I'm just going to detour a little bit from a word that you just used, which was story. We're in the world of storytelling, Harj. Everybody has a story to tell. Most recently, I don't know how, but I got really emotional about the word story because I was speaking to a school principal and I also shared my experience with cancer. At the end of it all, the parcel of conversation was shut so abruptly by this principal using the word, "It was good to hear your story." And I remember my eyes dampened at the time. We're used to watching things on YouTube. We're used to watching TikToks. We've got this momentary gratification that we have become irresponsive, almost numb to factual experiences that people are going through. That continues to make me positive, make me want to have conversations more on this context because people need to be unnumbed from what's going on. And people need to continue to be positive and be receptive to experiences that other people are going through. And it's not just about cancer. It can be about any life disturbances that we may be going through, whether it's mental health, whether it's issues with ill health in general, whether it's to do with disturbances within the household. There's so many things. Literally, a friend of mine very wisely once said that each front door hides a story, many stories behind it. Or you could drive by a street and look at each door and imagine that there's 100 stories going on. So the word story has become commonplace now. It's become so overly used that people have lost the essence of the real meaning of that word and what you're supposed to learn from it.
I love how you touch up on that actually, because it is so true. When I think of story, I think of opening a book and reading it. It's a story from start to finish. The art of conversation is about storytelling. It's about telling stories about your life and sharing experiences. And it's more than a story. It's a journey.
Yes.
But like you said, it's become so commonplace. It's almost the norm. It's just a word that has more meaning attached to it.
Yeah.
The English language, it's evolved so much. There's so many words to capture so many different things. Yeah. But some people will just take one word and apply it to so many different situations and it sticks.
Social media is so powerful. There's hundreds of things we watch on a daily basis that we learn from or that we enjoy. But a story has a beginning and an end. And after you turn that story off, whether it's a TikTok story you're watching or a YouTube story, it's over.
That's so true.
Whereas the experience that somebody's garnering in life is continuous. It's beyond that point. be it me, be it another person that you're covering the story of, that story continues. It was already running before the cameras captured it, and it's continuing after that. I intersperse that with what experiences I've had, that you can take that story away, whatever story you're currently in, and then at least apply some of the things that I've applied to be able to make it a better life for you.
What are some of the things that you applied? So when you did find out about having cancer and just the shock that you faced, knowing you on a personal level, I know that you internalize your emotions and you try to strengthen yourself. You very rarely lean on people. So how did you get through that moment where you could actually be strong enough to overcome it? What did you apply to yourself?
The first change that I experienced from the moment go, from the doctors giving us a pretty hopeless prognosis for the disease and telling us that if we were only 2 weeks late, it would have been too late and they'd be turning the machines off, to really understanding that I had to handle this differently to how I would normally have done it. Now, because I have a battalion with me, so I have my husband and I have my children that are going to be part of this journey, my father-in-law, who's reliant on our care as well. So there were a lot of dynamics in this equation. It was me leading the bandwagon, and I was going to have to do this differently. So the very first thing was the exact opposite of what you said, is that I did not internalize it. I externalized it. I made it very, very open, and an open book discussion, so to say. And the very day that we found out, my husband and I decided that we would speak with the children of the intensity to the point that it was a pretty grave diagnosis, and that we were all in this together. And so we all went for a 2-hour drive. We took a little pause. We had dinner together, and I shared with my children my worst nightmares. I shared with them what could potentially happen. And we were brutally honest, because maybe I wouldn't have the time, as for the doctors, to really be able to even have any discussions with them. So it was really taking the bull by the horns, Harj. It was one of those things that I had to do. And I absolutely do not have a single iota of regret about it, because I think that gave me the power back from my children. I even expressed things like, I didn't know how my body would take chemotherapy. I didn't know whether I'd be angry or sad or repulsed by things, or constantly sick, or just too weak to even get up to see them off to school. I discussed all those worries in a naked fashion so that they would hopefully be able to deal better with it. And honestly, it worked like magic. Because just being that honest, sometimes as parents, I'm always learning. And I say this a lot. A lot of the time, we're living our life like our parents have taught us to live it, or like we've seen, we emulate, right? We're constantly copying things on a subconscious level. We're doing it like our parents would have done it, or how we've seen them deal with situations. You're not really learning it all around. But I think doing it this way put the onus back on my children. My youngest was very little. Looking back, I think maybe I should have excluded her from that conversation. But actually now, then seeing her flourish into this really beautiful young lady with so much expressive emotion, I think I did the right thing, because they were just able to share with me, like I honestly shared with them, what they were feeling and how they were going to be able to support me as best as they could. And they were also able to put their hand up and say, you know what? We may not know what to do as well. So we were all in this together, and it really helped as a partnership. My husband, with the greatest respect, was the least responsive to this all. I think he was in denial. That's what my doctor thinks anyway. I think otherwise. That was a hard thing. That was definitely a hard bullet to bite, because I was like, was this all about health? What about the vows that we took? Wasn't this about sickness and health? Wasn't this about happiness and sadness? What happened? He seemed like he was on a runaway train, and that was the hardest thing to deal with, even bigger than the disease and the repercussions of the disease. It was really hard to deal with this one aspect of, call it ignorance or just avoidance. It was really hard to deal with. My doctor, who was from a different community, said to me, this is very common in South Asian households, that the husbands didn't know how to deal with it. So they were out of the scene, and that she hardly ever saw partners coming in for appointments. It's been a great learning, and this learning can hopefully help at least one person out there listen and see that really the solution lies within your own heart. and within yourselves. You've got to pull it out of the deepest dungeons of your heart, and you've got to put it out there and say, this is my survival instinct. This is how I'm going to do it. Or you could be thrown on an island, like we've seen so many movies about, where you get thrown out in the deep end and you've got to just find your way back, or you've got to find a way to survive. Now then, when you get put into an equation where there's children that are also still reliant on you, there is no choice. You have to be able to say, no, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this well, and I'm going to give it my best shot. And I'm not going to think about timelines, because once you cloud your mind with those things, you're not able to be positive, because you're going to get inundated with what's coming and how things might be. So sometimes it's just good to trust the universe and trust the moment that you're in and live that to the best. That's what I've been able to successfully do. And a lot of people that meet me now are able to see that positivity or that shine or that glow. It's because there's a lot of other things that I did, but mostly the first step is the onus that you take and say, look, I'm not going to give in to this. Whatever I have for however long I have, I'm going to do this well, and I'm going to do it with full conviction, and I'm going to take my battalion with me, and I'm going to take them as far forward as I can.
I find that getting a diagnosis of such a dreaded disease and being told what you were told by the doctor really made you think and see things differently.
Yeah.
And so a conversation that you maybe wouldn't have had with your children in the past, you did, and you got a response that you had never expected. And then also it opened your eyes to your relationship with your husband as well.
Yes.
So it was something that you never expected, but you learned a lot more about the situation that you were in.
Absolutely.
And I find that some people, it does take a diagnosis to realize that we need to make changes and we need to internally reflect, but it doesn't always have to get to that. I saw the strength in you before, just what you were going through. In my mind, I'm thinking when you got the cancer diagnosis, there were a myriad of things running through your head. Not just how you're going to handle the household, but it's almost, if I'm gone, who's going to step into my shoes and who's going to do this?
Absolutely.
And I just want to say one more thing as well. Didn't you lose your mother to, I don't know if it was cancer or a disease, and that must have subconsciously played a part as well. Like, I lost my mother, I had no control of it. And then my kids, that possibility could be overwhelming.
It's been a sequence of events, and you're absolutely right. I had lost my mother to a debilitating disease as well. But I did lose my father to cancer. It was at a very young age as well, not nearly as young as what my kids would have been when I was diagnosed, but fairly young, and still at a point in life where you're still dabbling with ideas and you're looking to your future. One thing that I have to say, which is a very important part of the diagnosis, is the release of diagnosis to all family members. I cannot enough stress that. I've still seen a lot of families here that don't tell the patient how extreme the disease is.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the exact stance that we took with my father. And we did not tell him that it was a hopeless case and he'd been given a 1-year timeline from the date of diagnosis. And we were scrounging around for time with extra radiation and extra chemotherapy, but the deadline was pretty set in stone. It was the done thing back then, many moons ago now, to not tell the patient. And I think that part of the world as well, it's quite common to not tell the person who's experiencing the disease quite how bad it is. If there's anything I would change today, that would be it. If I could go back in time. So I was the principal carer for my father. So I think he would have seen it in my eyes. Doesn't matter how much I would have been strong or tried to be strong. I think he'd read between the lines, and I'm pretty certain he had. And so he'd already given up. Whereas if we'd taken a different stance, I think if we'd been in it together, in the real sense of it, we were just doing our own little parts, and it was all hush and it was all behind the scenes. We were doing what we had to do. The juicing was happening and the right foods were happening, but inside his mind, he'd already lost the battle. This has happened to me numerous times in life, Harj. The things that I found the hardest to do are the easiest to do. It's because we're able to overcome. If you tell yourself, I'm going to do this, I'm just going to do this. For example, laundry has been my nemesis, right?
Everybody's nemesis.
It's everybody's nemesis. For me, I think the day I said to myself, I'm going to do this the best that I can, and I'm going to start here, It suddenly become this big, ginormous mountain, just became a molehill. And I've been able to chug away at it, and I've been able to just quickly deal with it much better than I could before. Because before, I was looking at this mountain and not dealing with it. I was psyching myself up. I'm a psychology student, so I know it works. You psych yourself up subconsciously without even knowing it, and you're not dealing with it. And it's building up to the point that it's not dealable anymore. Just going back to what I was saying about my father, I think him not knowing the exact gravity of the situation was actually the worst thing for us to do. In my case, knowing the gravity of the situation, then sharing it with the closest members of your family and my wonderful friends, my neighbors and everybody that has stood by me like absolute rocks. That was important to be able to tell them so that they were dealing with it and with you in it together, so that you never felt like you were left out. There was no guesswork. You just knew you were working in the positive direction. So that is really important, to be able to come to terms with your diagnosis, whichever illness it is, and then just deal with it rather than just keeping on pushing it behind walls or under the carpet.
I do love that, because I'm a fan of sharing. We just had this conversation earlier about me being so expressive.
Yes.
And I can suppress things if I need to. I just feel that everything should be expressed,
Yes.
but it's all about to the right people. Before you shared it with your neighbors and your friends, you shared it with your loved ones first, because those are the people that are going to be hit hard by the news, and you needed to get clarity on where their heads are going to be at.
Yes.
You've got your own feelings, and it's surely coming from a place of being a mother. I'm sure fathers handle it their own way.
Yes.
But mothers, we are emotional, a lot more emotional, and we do care about other people's emotions. So it's more like you probably were thinking about how are they going to feel about it before you even thought about how you were going to feel. And there was a lot of weight on how they would be before you could even take in the news yourself and think, oh my God, this is how I feel about it. I remember when you shared the news with me, it took you a matter of weeks or even a month or more before the gravity of the news actually fell, when you started actually talking about what this actually really means for you.
Yes.
And then you were questioning, and you wanted to read more about what if this is it? And then you went there, but you didn't go there straight away. Straight away you thought about, I've got to share this news. It's not just about me. And then when you started to think about yourself, how did that impact you? How did you take it?
I think it's important to then dissect what you're going through further once you feel stronger. You can't avoid the conversation. You can't forever push it under the carpet. It's got to be something that you're going to deal with. And you're absolutely right. I think I had to go through the right emotions to begin with. I had to, first of all, understand this was happening. And like I said, with the mountain of laundry, similar to that, I knew this mountain of troubles was in front of me. I had to either elevate myself or I had to get snowed under, one of those two things. So I had to understand that the best way would be to deal with it in a way that there was more people around me. And then as time progresses, you are going to look at what's really bothering you and what the consequences or the repercussions of what you're dealing with will be. And one of those grave repercussions would have been the poor prognosis of this disease in general. I don't think there's a day that goes by, Harj, not from that day, but from times from years ago, that you've heard of cancer patients that are giving up their fight of life. You hear that all the time. I heard that yesterday, last week, somebody passed away. It is just such a terrible disease that you cannot come to a point where you'll just say, oh, it's all hunky-dory. You are going to know that at some point it's going to take over you. But are you going to let it take over you? And that's a decision you make in your mind on a daily basis. You say to yourself, hey, I have this extra day to do something else with, and I'm going to live it to the fullest. It's definitely easier said than done, but give yourself credit for those bad days as well. If you've gone through a bad day yesterday, or looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, oh, okay, my hair's all gone now. Thankfully, it didn't bother me that much. There are people who cannot step out with a bald head.
It's not about stepping out with a bald head. My hair is a part of me, right? Yeah. So I've even thought about, what if I didn't have my hair? That's a big deal for me. That's like losing a limb for me. Yeah. But it's just having to deal with that.
Yeah. And sometimes it's mind over matter. There were times my kids were telling me, Mommy, don't you want to wear a wig? You want to go out like this? It was because it's not socially acceptable. There are certain norms, and this is the indoctrination that I want to break. Don't always do things because it's what the society is expecting or not expecting. I've always been a rebel, and I'm going to rebel against the disease that I'm facing. I'm going to rebel against a situation if it doesn't make sense to me. And I'm also going to change the general outlook. So they have been times, I have pictures that my daughter's taken of me in the middle of a bustling restaurant, and I don't have a wig on, and I'm fine with that. I got tremendous compliments from a lot of people to say, you look very nice with a kind of a gentle stubble coming through. Just experience it, because the more you make this a mountain for yourself every day, the harder it's going to be to climb. This was the best way to deal with it, because sometimes you just got to take the bull by the horn. A lot of the times kids would say, Mommy, it's fine. You can wear a hat or something because it's really cold. But if I enjoy doing that, I'll do it. But I'm not going to do it because somebody else might think it looks odd. Just make your own rules. Accept what's happening. Understand what's happening. Don't do the dissection right at the beginning. For my mother, it was basically chronic kidney failure, and it was an age thing as well. I think it really helped her to not know there was a deadline, and there was a deadline. It was just nicer to know that she was going through it, but she continued to live her life really well as she could in the given situation. I think at some point when it's really hard to handle and when you really know time is coming, it is important to discuss it, just so that the quality of life is not affected. It's really important that every day is an enjoyment and every day is a fulfilling experience.
I personally have this outlook on life that we're all going to be gone one day. We don't have any control over when that is or how that's going to happen. When you hear such a word as cancer, it rushes that along. But in certain experiences, some people, they don't have a chance to even hear that they have a disease and they lose someone in a car accident. So I'm a big believer in just to value life and to value your loved ones the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of agreeing in what you're saying, because you did mention not having regrets, that if you're in a moment, you can make a decision. And if it's about a loved one, whether that loved one is sick or not, if you love that person and they need you, but you need something for yourself, then you have to decide, look, if something happens to that loved one, am I going to regret it? Because it doesn't take a disease to take a loved one. And that's the sad thing, is that people can just go at the drop of a hat. There's nothing expected about it. It's so sad, because even when you have a timeline, it's not any different. It's not better knowing.
No, I don't even only for the patient, it's better to know so they can do more. There's also another aspect that I've been exposed to, which is called invincibility. And from back in the day, being in the insurance industry, there's a sense of invincibility. I don't know whether that's a nurtured invincibility or that's something that's learned over time. But people tend to think anything bad happens to the person next to them, but not them.
Yes.
And I understood this more and more when we came into the insurance industry and talking to people about those dark conversations and those grave conversations about what happens if you drop dead today. Don't you want to have some kind of protection for the people that you leave behind? And those were difficult conversations because people don't understand that these things happen.
Yeah.
Life can end suddenly. Diseases are popping their ugly heads from every direction. Accidents, I've never heard of as many accidents as I have in the last decade. So many accidents, so many young deaths, so many, since COVID as well, but so many heart ailments that younger children are facing. And so much has changed, but yet this invincibility element, people are not understanding it still. So there's this sense that people have that it's not going to happen to me. I think that consciousness is so important in this day and age, to be able to say, today is a day I have out of the rest of my life. And the rest of my life could be 80 years up from now, or it could be tomorrow or today. So what am I doing consciously to make this a better day? Or how am I changing myself? I want to say this one thing that I've learned is that everything has to first happen within, not without. It isn't something that no change is happening outside first. Much as we like to believe. We like to believe that changes around us, and this is happening and that's happening. Everything that happens that actually causes the change to happen in your life must begin on the inside with a conscious conversation with yourself. We hardly sit down with ourselves anymore. We don't. We have no conversations with ourselves. We don't laugh and giggle with ourselves. We don't converse with ourselves. And I don't mean, a lot of that might imply that, oh, you've gone a little bonkers. You've gone crazy because you're talking to yourself. But really, what is it that Seema is all about? What is it that fulfills me? What is it that I need to do for myself? How can I better myself? And all of those things come with spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been my rock as well. It wasn't available to me because I wasn't ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
At the time that I was diagnosed, I was falling apart in a big sense of things, because it's a catastrophe. It's something terrible that's happened in your life and you're just dealing with it as best as you can. And I did those short moves that I took involving my family and my neighborhood, the whole village, as they say. That really helped me out a lot. My work colleagues, brilliant support system, the fact that I didn't give up work and I continued to do as best as I could, those were all good parts of the jigsaw that needed to be where they were. But what was really important is spiritual grounding. You needed to be earthed. You needed to have your antenna out for learning about whatever it is that you assign yourself to, whether it's faith, religion, spirituality, the nature, or even, for that matter, at large, the universe. If you haven't come to that point yet, that's also fine. It took, I don't know, many years to arrive here. I was always soul searching, always looking, but not finding, to coming to a point where you just suddenly attach yourself to something that was larger than you and something that gives you the solar system to know that you're well looked after. But that whole journey has to begin within you. You can't be seeking on the outside. Do you think I've not been to enough churches, temples? I have. Gurdwaras everywhere. But again, this is what you're taught. This is societal indoctrination. Ritualistically, you're taught this because you're a part of the household and this is how your parents have done it. Like I said, you emulate, you copy, you do the things that you think have got them down that path. And so you're going to follow most of the time. But I wasn't much of a follower. Like I said, I was very much the kind of person, I need to understand this. I challenged religion, so to say, in the sense that it doesn't make sense to me. Why don't you eat? Like my mom would say, don't eat meat on Tuesdays, because such and such God would get angry. And I'm like, well, where do all the other gods go? We've got so many 100,000 gods. Surely if one doesn't eat, the other doesn't eat. It just never made sense to me. I was able to put it aside and say, I'm not dealing with this. I'm not going to follow you on this one because it doesn't make sense to me. My mom would say, for example, you shouldn't really shake your legs because it causes a fight in the house. Call it superstitions or whatever. And I never understood it. And my kids are the same. They were just peacekeeping. Okay, mom, fine, we won't do it. Or if somebody's leaving the house and somebody sneezes,
Do anything, think about everything you're doing, be mindful. You could cause a ripple effect just by sneezing.
yeah. So maybe I could fall down. But my kids were like, well, hold on, mum. How does that actually work? If I jingled a bunch of keys, how is that going to cause a fight? It's really important to remain conscious about what it is that makes you happy, and coming back to spirituality, to lend you the positivity that you need in the interim until you're genuinely creating this positivity within you, because you will. It'll come to a point where you're just bouncing off the positivity that's within yourself. It's absolutely organic and it's happening within you.
It happens when you start that journey inwardly, though.
Yes.
As you, I speak about this in one of my videos where I speak about the pathway to positivity through change.
Yes.
The acronym that I have. And I speak about how it starts within yourself.
Yes.
And having to go back into yourself. A lot of people, they deflect by focusing on their external environment. So blaming rather than accepting. When there's two people involved in a conflict, for example, each person carries some weight of that conflict.
Yes. Absolutely.
And say one starts yelling and then the other one just runs off. The one who's yelling could say, I'm sorry that he yelled. The other one could apologize for running off. There doesn't have to be an apology if that's not how they resolve their conflict. But it's just about recognizing that both people contribute to that conflict. And that's when you go inside, you can recognize that you're part of that conflict. But there are other people that don't inwardly reflect. They will just externally just blame that
or react.
It's somebody's fault and it's not their own fault.
Yeah.
So we are all at fault in a sense because we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
Human error is a real thing.
It is a real thing. And like I said, that when your conscious journey begins, when you're doing everything mindfully, the reactions and the responses are going to be different. It's just organically going to be different because you're now approaching things in a different fashion. And like you said earlier, very nicely, that when there's a conflict and the two people are headbutting and there's nothing tangible comes out of it, nothing good comes out of it, and you can keep doing this for the rest of your lives and you're going to be in exactly the same spot, to suddenly taking one step back and actually simply not reacting. Sometimes just making eye contact with the person that you're having a discussion with. And I know a lot of families are undergoing this through COVID. There have been difficult times where people weren't used to spending that much time together at home, to having those times together and not knowing how to deal with it, to getting to a point where they just wanted to part ways. And so many breakups happened. But I hear this all the time, both as a realtor, as a active community member. I find a lot of people have issues within themselves, but nobody's willing to make any changes right there. Something as simple as just making eye contact and leaving that conversation. Just literally saying, I don't want to have those discussions. Not because I'm avoiding that discussion, because I don't think it's a fruitful outcome. It's not something that's going to serve a purpose. So I'm just going to walk away from this conversation. And I tell you what, Harj, this is one conversation I have a lot. I meet a lot of younger girls that are married, that are having difficulty and really settling their marriages, and they're just really in troubled marriages. And I said, where is your input? What input have you put in this to make this better, except actually putting a little garnish of anger on it? What have you done differently that's going to change the situation? No, this is not legal advice or anything. It's just something to change your day-to-day approach to your troubles that can really make a transformation in your daily life. So why wouldn't you do it? It's going to serve your immediate purpose.
And I think it's really important that you all hear the words that it's about reflecting inside and knowing that we can make a difference in the way that we adapt to situations.
Yeah.
So if you are the person to just go in at the conflict head on, it's easier to just take a little bit of Seema's advice and just look the person in the eye and just know it's not going to serve a purpose.
Yeah.
So the whole time you recognize it, is this going to serve a purpose or not? And if it's not going to serve any purpose, just politely walk away. And it starts with going inward and knowing, even if you're in a momentary discussion, you're always aware of who you are and what you're about. And you have your morals, your ethics, and everything that keeps you grounded, and focusing on that.
Again, when we're talking about conflicts in relationships and things like that, and how to handle it in a fractionally different way to make a ginormous difference. When I was little, and a lot of parents that I know, even to this day, if their child fell down on the ground and the child cried, the only way the parent knew how to get them to be quiet is to say, oh, the floor hit you? Let's just hit the floor back.
Yeah.
So whether it was to divert attention, and the child would stop crying and would be more focused on hitting the floor back and saying, oh, you are so naughty, you hit me, right? But this is what we're teaching. So on a subconscious level, I find that a lot of things are embedded deep into our mind. We get gratification from seeing that the other person is in pain, or we get gratification from reacting. What is it that makes me happy? Does it make me happy to see the next person sad? No, it doesn't. Does it make me happy to be sad because I've been in a fight or a discussion? No, it doesn't. What is it that's going to make me happy? To walk away from it without a fight, being elongated, is what'll make me happy. So that's just what I'm going to do. And I'm going to walk away, or I'm going to look at this person that's antagonizing me and just smile and walk away. Or if I can't smile in that moment, I'm just going to tell them. And I've done that a couple of times, that, oh, this is not a discussion I wish to have. Thank you. And just walk away. And it's very empowering. It's not about you becoming more powerful than the other person. And it's not to intimidate the other person or to make them look small. It's to give you your power back, and so that you can nurture yourself. And this bound of energy that you get, and this bound of happiness that you get within you, comes from nurturing this way. It doesn't have to be by winning in the fight or having the last word every time. It's just really not important to do that. And as you graduate in life, we all come out of universities and school graduation programs. We have all the accolades and we put those coats on and those university hats on and everything. It's meaningless. any amount of education is meaningless if you cannot apply some basic principles. And I'm applying them with my children too. There have been, at least in Indian household, there's no such thing as the parent saying sorry to you.
As generations ago, I think. Yeah.
Even in recent years, even in my own circle of influence that I see, I don't see that there is this edge. I'm the parent and I know what I'm doing. I often say to my kids, yeah, I do know what I'm doing simply because of the advantage of age, but I still, in terms of parenting, I'm learning. So I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings about this, or I did this or did that. It just puts the power back into the relationship that you're in. I'm still a long ways away from where I need to be, a long ways away, but it helps your everyday relationship so much. To be able to back down sometimes is the most powerful tool, and not reliving your experiences. The pain that you go through, if you're in a brutal relationship, and it could be a parent-child relation, it could be father-son, it could be husband-wife, it could be anything. It doesn't apply to any specific relationship. It's very global. This principle applies to any relationship. You can very easily just back off and not have to have the last word every time. It's like us knowing when we see these traffic cones here and there, not to go into those lanes. Trust me, when you start applying these principles, you're going to see these traffic cones. You're going to see them from miles away. You're not going to walk those paths. You're not going to keep running into the same road obstructions every single time, because you've now changed your approach from the inside out. And that really is the most powerful thing I can leave you with today, is if you can just change yourself from the inside and try and do things that are more fulfilling for you, you're really going to see a difference. And with that, if you can sprinkle some spirituality, and again, spirituality is not religion. It can be religion, but it's not. It's about changing yourself from the inside and fulfilling yourself and nourishing yourself with soul food that really makes you happy, whether it's listening to mantras, or whether it's chanting mantras, or whether it's just listening to the word of God, or reading the Bible, or reading Shabad Gurbani, whatever it is that makes you really go on a deeper level of soul searching is what's really going to help you. People say this to me. I don't see it as much as I hear it. People say that despite enduring such a disease, and I know I've not been cleared off by the doctors by any means, you're glowing. And trust me, my food habits aren't that much better. They should have been, but they're not that much better. But it's because I'm experiencing a calm that I've never experienced before. And I'm in control of that calm. It's like being on rocky waters, but your boat's stable. It's just the most captivating feeling that you'll experience. You're on rocky waters, your boat could go down, but there's such calm and such stability on board that it's just very rejuvenating. And that is what I want to leave you all with. I want to say, walk the path that's making you more peaceful on the inside. Search that path. Could be anything. It took me years before I found my path. That was the way it was meant to be. But some people are a little bit more equipped up here. They know better what really makes them happen. But the noise, there's just too much noise out there, Harj. I found that even with the disease, there was more added noise, right? So much to deal with. Social media is also noise. There's just... Because you inevitably start following certain things. You end up following trends, and you're wanting to do things that other people are doing, and you're just in this sort of race.
And that's what I like to focus on too. It's not about being right. I personally see everything as a gray area, and there's no black and white in life. People make decisions based on their experiences.
Yes, absolutely.
And everybody's going to have a different journey, so they're going to handle the situation different. Yeah. One person might punch a wall to relieve themselves of anger. That's their journey. That's how they've gotten to that point. Another person might be at a point where they know how to internalize it and how to use the anger in a positive way. So just knowing that we're all different and there's no one model fits all. And I love that how you speak about that is there is no spirituality for everyone. There is no religion for everyone. And even if two people follow the same religion or a million people follow spirituality, practice spirituality, we all have different meanings, and those meanings are personal to ourselves.
And how do we apply those? It's not about learning something, because we've learned umpteen things at school.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a Catholic school. I learned about God, and now it's great. I fear God, but we never knew God. We were always taught, with the greatest of respect, to fear God, never to love him, never to really accept him into your life as a way, as a teacher. And I also want to give another analogy. Like, as a realtor, I often say to people, for example, if they wanted to buy a home, where do you want to move? I want to guess this, or I have to buy it here. Or why do you want to buy it here? I want to buy it here because X, Y, Z, or I love this community, or my friend moves here. But I said, but why would you put big iron chains and shackles on your feet when you're completely mobile? You have a car, your job isn't in this area, you're able to travel, your children are not tied to a particular school, your parents don't live in this area, so it's not really serving any purpose except that you're doing this because it's just socially correct to do. So why would you put shackles on your feet and tie yourself to an area where going further could help you buy something cheaper and inevitably make you more money? So in the same sense, why are we constantly following people and doing things that just seem, I say, socially correct things to do? Why are we able to go away from the norm and do things that are right for you, your heart, your inside, your core, your family, obviously, because we are all assigned the task of looking after our families. And I think I'm still learning that.
On that journey, when you have a family, when you don't have a family, if it's a dream that you have.
Yeah.
I think it's something that we navigate along the way. Even my parents, they're still learning how to be parents, especially when life is evolving and there's technology that's available to them now that wasn't available before. So they're navigating that, knowing that their grandchildren are born into this technology, and how are they going to have a relationship with their grandchildren?
Yeah.
So just navigating any new chapter of your life. Like families, it doesn't matter whether you're a parent, whether you're a child, you're always navigating this hat that you have to wear. And there's not one way to do things that works.
Yeah.
I think there's so much more that I want to touch on, and I just feel that we're getting diverted and stuff. But I do want people to know that you are available after this interview if they want to reach out to you.
Oh, absolutely.
You have your own channel or video diaries?
I do want to talk about that briefly. Thanks, Harj, for the opportunity. So since cancer began, and cancer, like I said, was in my life before it actually hit me. So it was through my father. And I would often discuss this in my own mind. How do we make this a more conversable topic? Because as I said, people are numbed to the idea. It just becomes a story, and then it pauses there, or it ends there, or it's got a shelf life. How do we make this something that really people can see years from now and pick upon and understand and apply to their lives? For me, it's about application. I want to go down in the pages of history, having put something that can be applied for awareness. I don't just want the song and dance. There's a lot of song and dance about cancer. With the greatest of respect, there are cancer societies and stuff like that. Till this day, my question remains unanswered. Why is cancer still taking over everybody's lives if there's been so much money put into research? And you know why? It's because there's no awareness. There isn't enough awareness. I didn't even know until the penultimate moment of diagnosis that I was fighting such a terrible disease. I had no awareness. We need to put that power back in the consumer's hand, in the person's hand. But there's a lot of good talk about food and this and that. Can it be applied? Oh, you're talking about organic food. It was a fad. It was a fashion. There was a time where somebody was doing it, so everybody was doing it, and organic food, until it became unaffordable for the general public, because since COVID, people were like, oh, maybe I should just eat organic food, until they realized that it was digging into their budget big time. And then people gravitated away from that and started just washing their food better and eating their food better and better times and all that. Point I'm trying to make is there's just not enough awareness out there. I want to make sure, and this is why and there's not also enough positivity. That's why I love partnering with you today to talk about this, Harj, because people are getting depressed. left, right, and center. There is too much depression around. People are giving up on the internal level. Before they give up on the outside, people give up on the inside. That's why it's important to work on your insides. Be aware of your heart, your soul. Be aware of what is making you happy, what's fulfilling you. It's not external things. At the end of the day, it won't be any amount of money. It won't be the best car. It won't be the best house on the street. It will be on your inside, your soul. You need to have soul food. And now going from that into the next thing about Hope Diaries. So cancer, I've started a channel. I say I've started it. I'm not the best at these things. The idea is to just bring that awareness and positivity out, which is why I started the channel, which is called Cancer Talk, the Hope Diaries. And because cancer's not hopeless. It may have a short life. You may have a short life due to the cancer, but in that time, you can make everything valuable and worthwhile. I piloted something actually in the time that I was unwell, and after I was able to start going out and meeting people for a whole year. The first thing I would say to people is that I have cancer, not because I was looking for any pat on the back or anything like that, but because I wanted to see reactions of how people react to cancer now, because it's become such a common word that people have become numb to it. And there was only 2 people in that entire year, and that would have been at least 365 people, if not more. Only 2 people put their pen down literally and said, "And how are you now?" Only 2 people out of so many hundreds of people that got to know I had cancer. It was just like it wasn't said. And for the 2 people that spoke to me, it really meant a lot. You meet somebody, empathize, be in that moment. We're running through our moments. We're literally breaking the post and running through our moments of life. The moments of life that we've been given to experience with our own families, with ourselves, with other people. We're barraging through those. We're not really stopping in that moment, so to say, smelling the roses, right? We're not in that moment. So be aware of your moment. I'm consciously trying to do that every day. Be aware what's around you. Help if you can. One of the other things that I would partner with this is try and give back. There's a great sense of empowerment, and it's not for showing off. Please don't do it while you're on video. Whatever you do, it needs to be secret. It doesn't need to be flashed all over social media.
I also have a messaging on that too, about the ego, what it is. It's about who are you fulfilling when you're giving? Is it really for somebody else?
Yeah.
Because that's the art of giving, is to give selflessly and wholly for the benefit of another person. And your benefit is that you're going to just feel happy when you see them. Happiness. And I think that's lost under people's ego.
It's so funny that you should say that. There was a video that I saw recently where they filmed somebody giving a sandwich to what seems like a homeless person. And they've taken the video and then they rewound this video and retraced the steps of the video. And it's actually the other way around. It's the person is giving. It looks like the person that received the sandwich was a homeless person, but it's actually completely the opposite. So what I'm trying to say by this is that what social media shows us is not really always the truth. So they've literally retraced the steps of it. And like I said, just work on yourself, on your inner core. You know, we hear the word engineering a lot, inner engineering, and there's a lot of gurus out there that are speaking good things. The whole thing is about application. There's absolutely no point listening to a lot of these things and not being able to apply for your daily advantage. What's your daily advantage from learning or going to these discourses? I know there's a lot of people that offer discourses and you're spending astronomical amounts of money trying to gather the spiritual element. There are courses I know where you go quiet for 10 days. You're not allowed to use your phone, which I think is a brilliant thing. People have forgotten. They've forgotten to be without their phones. In England, there's a restaurant that actually puts jammers on as soon as you go in because they want you to have a conversation. There are restaurants that have a basket they give to you right at the beginning that goes into a safe with all your phones in it so that you can actually have a conversation. I'm not joking. I was at a restaurant last week and I was just looking. Everybody had their heads buried in the phone while they're waiting for their orders. We've forgotten how to converse. It's frightening.
Yeah. And I think on that note, I do want to say that in terms of ages, not everybody has forgotten, because some people have been born into the generation of phones.
Yes.
They've been born into that technology of having a smartphone, having TV available to them whenever they want, social media access, and all of these things weren't available to certain generations. And so the introduction of carrying your email in your pocket, carrying access to social media, which wasn't even around until recently, and just having access to all of that, it checks you out from society and the social interaction that you could be having, the social exchange, where you could have a heart-to-heart discussion with somebody. The energy you're giving out is going all into the phone, and wherever you're looking, whatever you're watching, whatever you're doing, that's where you're sending all your energy. And a lot of times, if you're sitting beside somebody, why do you even need your phone? Is that person beside you not fulfilling company? Because if they're not, then don't be around them.
Yeah,
exactly. If you're going to be on your phone, go be having a heart to heart with the person that you're messaging.
Yeah.
Go connect with your followers and speak with them more often. Don't be around people, because it's always nice to have a heart to heart and put your phone away. And I do agree with that.
Yeah.
And I love the word heart because it's in my show as well, Heartbeat with Harjeet.
It's meaningful. And you know what? Again, we're in the day and age of choice, right? There aren't that many compulsions anymore. There aren't things that we have to do. In the undercurrent, there are things that we're just having to do. We're just doing things very robotically. There's no need. You can just change the norm. If this is the norm that everybody should be on the phone, then change it. You can make that effort, and it's quite simple. If it's school pickups for my children, I'm like, you need to come off your phones, guys. So let's have a conversation. How was your day? How was this? How was that? You've got to make that change. You've got to be initiating that change. And one of the things with phone that I have found, and I'm not soliciting any type of congregation, but I'm saying that there is a place that I like to go. There are meetings that I do in my own home, which are prayer meetings in which phones are not allowed. It's not like a strict message. It's an internal message for each and every one to follow. And if they don't want to follow, then no good luck, right? But the idea that if you are in a moment doing a particular thing, then your phone is an unnecessary device. It really is nothing but a distraction. To be able to see maybe hundreds of people not being on their phone for a point of up to 2 hours is actually very, it's heartwarming. It's very different to what I'm used to seeing. So it's really nice to see that people are able to conform to that because they see the benefit on the inner level, that it's fulfilling.
It's always about going inward, working on yourself inward. And when it's coming to putting the phone away, it's recognizing that there are greater things.
Yes.
Than your phone. What you're seeing on your phone, like Seema said, it's not all real. You need to experience the real world to know what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
Before we stop believing what we see and what we hear on social media or any other kind of media.
Yeah.
So I want to put this out there that you can all connect with Seema. I will put something in the caption below, and I will also include a link to her videos, her nuggets of wisdom. And I hope to have her on the show again. I hope you enjoyed hearing her story, her journey, her experiences, and I hope you learned something from her. And because she's been a massive inspiration to me, I want to thank you all again for watching. And until next time, this is Heartbeat with Harjeet.